from calling him his inspiration to asking him to step down from his position. Greg Norman's loved and hated by a lot of golfers in the community. Here's how golfers really feel about Greg Norman.
Loved that golf club every time. You had to feel it in your hands and you could tell.
Let's begin with Jimmy Dunn. Now, some of you might not know who Jimmy is, all because he's not all that popular today. But let me tell you about him. He's an extraordinary player and very notable in the golf community too. And when you've spent so much time in the sport, your opinion always carries a lot of weight. So when he talked about Greg Norman, a lot of people were forced to think. He said that he'd never want to work for someone like Greg Norman. Now, this already made it pretty clear that the two don't exactly get along.
You know, our firm has a lot of golfers in it. Always did, always will. Although Herman Sandler was not a golfer but loved the game, Chris Quackenbush was the guy I grew up with, was my best friend.
But why's that? There must be a reason behind it all, right? Well, there are many. But according to Dunn, he likes to work with people who are absolutely credible. That sounds like a jab at Norman, no? But that's not all he said. He continued his statement by saying that he wouldn't want to work with someone who focuses more on sizzle as compared to fact. Lastly, he said that he'd work with someone who's actually reliable. All these were the reasons why he said he didn't want to work with Greg Norman and LIV Tour. Ending his statement, he said that he was completely supportive of the PGA Tour and stood by his words. Now, it's clear that Dunn really isn't fond of Norman, but this next golfer really seems to love him. Yep, I'm talking about Adam Scott. Now, you guys might remember this one. Remember back when Adam Scott won the Masters in 2013? There was one person he thanked and credited a lot for his win, and that person was Greg Norman. After he won a playoff in Augusta against Angel Cabrera, he talked about the person who inspired him the most in the sport. Adam said that Norman was the person who's responsible for inspiring a whole nation of golfers all around the world, and especially in Australia.
Yeah, not much was going for either of us, and a couple errors by both of us on the back nine, but some good stuff at the end of the match to win.
He then continued talking about what things about the man truly made him a real role model for all the young golfers in the community. Adam said that it's the way Norman's handled himself over the years. As a player and a person, that's incredible. He was a role model, he said. Some of you might say that this was before the whole LIV drama started, so Adam might feel differently about Norman now. Well, nope. He still supports his mentor fully, unlike this next golfer. He's none other than Jon Rahm. Jon had a lot to say about Norman, and most of it wasn't positive, making it clear that the two don't exactly see eye to eye.
You can't really win it on this golf course, but you can sure fall out of pace, and it's a great start. Solid round of golf, great putting out there. Hopefully I can keep that going the whole week and feel a little bit better to the green.
He said that Norman's clearly had a vendetta against PGA Tour for a very long time now, and when your motive is to make someone fail instead of making your own tour succeed, it really shows and it can really cloud your judgment. Following up, Rahm said that Greg isn't a businessman, he's a player, and even if he was successful in business, playing is the first thing he does best. Rahm then again said that he really thinks that Norman's more focused on getting vengeance and less on running a successful tour. His intentions might not be as pure as they could, he added, stating that this is one of the biggest reasons why he's not fit for the job as the CEO of LIV. Rahm even said that he thinks Norman might have to step down from his position if things don't get better, and that'll especially be the case if the feud between the two tours doesn't end. Rahm said that to reach any conclusion, one of the tours will have to go, and he hoped it wasn't the PGA, because Jay's done a great job building and running the PGA Tour. Another person that seems to think all Greg wants to do is take PGA down is this next golfer. He's the man himself, Wayne Grady. Now, Grady and Norman have known each other for a long time. So when Grady makes an assessment about Norman, I think it's safe to say that there's going to be at least some truth behind it. He said that as someone who has known Norman for over 50 years, he knows one thing for sure about the CEO, and that's that he's only all about himself.
So for me, as an independent contractor, we've always been that way. And the PGA Tour being a monopolist, right?
Yep.
Grady added that Norman's been trying to take down the PGA for over the last 30 years. Wayne then went ahead and made a pretty harsh statement. He said that all the admiration he had for Norman and what he had achieved over his career and what the player had done for Australian golf is all gone now. That's serious. It's pretty clear that Grady doesn't exactly like Norman, just like this next golfer. The man, the myth, the legend, Rory McIlroy. He's one of the biggest names in golf right now, and he has tons of fans all around the world, so his words really carry quite a bit of influence.
For me, in my competitive spirit, I want to win the FedEx Cup for a lot of different reasons. Is money one of them? Yeah, look, it would be nice. It's, you know.
A while ago, he spoke to the Irish Independent and told fans all about the origin and details of his beef with Greg. After he described what started the one-sided feud, he said that he wrote to Norman nicely and even thanked Norman for his kind words back in 2011. To this, Greg replied nicely, and Rory thought that the two were on good terms, but that was far from the truth. Rory said that just a few weeks after they had that interaction, Norman called him brainwashed by the PGA Tour in an interview with the Washington Post. This really rubbed Rory the wrong way, and he was honestly surprised at the duality of Norman. That's the day he decided he was going to be as much of a pain in his as possible, and he has been on that mission ever since. Recently, he joined in on the whole LIV debate. He said that Norman needs to go for the whole issue between the tours to be resolved. Now, he's not the only person who thinks Norman is unfit for the job and bad for the sport as a whole.
I think that's a little bit of hyperbole there, but honestly, for me, the 2 shots into 16 yesterday were better than the drive on 18. Drive on 18 was...
Well, another golfer who thinks the same is a man who needs no introduction. He's the GOAT, Tiger Woods. When he was asked if LIV and PGA could exist together, he said that it was impossible right now, especially because of their leadership. Now, he didn't mention Jay when he said this, but he mentioned Greg and his animosity toward the tour as a reason behind all this. He then mentioned Rory and said that he completely agrees with the player when he said that Greg should step down from his position as CEO, and maybe after that, the two tours can figure out an agreement that solves this whole issue. He made it pretty clear that he wasn't exactly really fond of Greg Norman, or the idea of him staying the CEO of LIV, not to mention how problematic the LIV Tour has been ever since it started. No wonder Greg's getting a lot of criticism for being the CEO. Woods said that the solution for this whole issue has to start with Greg. He needs to understand what's happening is ultimately bad for the future of the sport. Trying to destroy a tour out of vengeance is only going to do harm to golf as a sport.
So many guys, they have blown up my phone, and
See, they're all trying to get on me.
They're all
trying to get on my side.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, to me, it's like Ali, Frazier.
So the sooner he's out of the picture, the better. That's all for how golfers really feel about Greg Norman.